Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Joan. Thank you, Judy. In my next life, I'm going to be able to sit on a chair like Judy did here. So today we are celebrating Memorial Day, which is actually tomorrow. Memorial Day has been designated as the last Monday of May, and that's tomorrow. And the federal holiday is for honoring and mourning the military servicemen and women who died in the service of their country, of our country. And we also, as Dennis talked about, we want to also just recognize that anybody that served in the service deserves some recognition today. Yes. And we just want to thank you, and we want to just acknowledge in prayers, uplifting anybody who served in our services, and surround you with prayers of love and appreciation. So now we put that to rest, and we go on with what we've been talking about in May, and that is our gardens, planting our seeds, getting our seeds ready to plant. And I think about Barbara Marx Hubbard. I don't know if anybody knows Barbara Marx Hubbard, but she wrote this book called Conscious Evolution, among other things. But you know, her point was that we continue to evolve as human beings to be better and better and move higher and higher. And sometimes it doesn't seem that way, I realize. Sometimes it seems like we're going that way, but we're not. We are not. And if you look at statistics even, you know, you'll see there's more people being educated. There's more people that have adequate food than they did. They have access to education much more than they did in the past. There's good stuff going on. It's just that that doesn't sell in the media, so we don't see that so much. But there is good happening. We are evolving. And what we've been calling this is the harvest of the evolutionary leap in consciousness. We're moving higher in our consciousness. And what does that leap mean for each of us? Well, you know, we have to start here. That's the only place we can start, because sometimes when we see the challenges that we face, we're like, you know, forget about it. I'll go crawl under the sheets again. I can't do anything. But we start just with this. We start with our own hearts, letting our own hearts heal. And then we can reach out. We can reach out to our families, people in our neighborhood, people in the building where I live, for instance. Then our city, our state, we can reach out. It can have that ripple effect throughout the whole world. And some of the things we can do is, again, take responsibility for us, and we can live from our oneness. Remembering what we're talking about here today. There's a power in the universe. That one power that created everything and everyone is the same power that experiences life in, through, and as its creation, living through oneness. Roger Teal, a retired minister from Mile High, wrote a book called This Life is Joy, and it's the book we're using in the Lino Lakes prison right now. We're just taking a chapter a week and talking about this idea of oneness. And one of the things we're going to do tomorrow night, we were supposed to go, can you hear me all right? Is this good? One thing that we were going to do last week, but the boys were bad and they got closed down, they got locked up, and so they wouldn't let us in. When they're locked down, we can't go in. But we're going to be going tomorrow night. And one of the exercises I'm going to have them do is that exercise I learned to do in Alternatives to Violence, which is part of the Friends for a Nonviolent World program. It's a great program, but it was a little too much for me physically. I mean, we had to go Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. I was just like, it was very difficult. And so I was very interested in being able to take this program in once a week. To me, it's not taxing on me physically, and I feel like we are getting a message maybe a little bit more zeroed into these guys to help them have some positive okay. We improvise. Thank you, Judy. So anyway, that's what we're going to do in prison on Tuesday night. We're going to go through this exercise. It's called In Common. And what we do is we encourage the we call them residents now, that are sitting in our circle to sit next to and communicate with somebody that they don't know very well. And that's not too difficult because most of these guys up until our circle didn't really know each other. But so the idea is talk to somebody that you don't know very well. And us facilitators will do that too. We'll be talking to an inmate. When we did this in with Stillwater, and it was the part of the AVP, and I was with this guy, and he was just this huge white guy. And his arms, the top of his arms were like this big. They were huge. And so we were talking about what do we have in common? Well, I'm white, you're white, do you have kids, you know, that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, let's go a little deeper. And I said to him, I'm a fallen away Lutheran. And he said, I'm not. And he pulls his sleeve up. I'm not pulling my sleeve up, but he pulled his sleeve up to here. And on this big, huge arm of his, he had a picture of Jesus tattooed on the upper part of his arm. You know, just those kind of touching times. And he didn't hold it against me that I was having trouble with my previous upbringing and where that took me, and nor was I. I was thrilled to see that he was still practicing a very meaningful religion in his life. So, boy, do I go on. I didn't mean to go into that story, but oneness, that's what we can do as individuals. That's what we can do. Remember, we are one with the one, and we're one with each other. That's why we do have these things in common. We can live together in harmony. You know, again, starting with ourselves, healing our own hearts, healing our situation with our neighbors. You know, sometimes these are people that we don't want to heal with. They're nasty people, but heal them in your heart anyway, and you will see that when we go up to that spiral of raising our consciousness, the consciousness of the whole situation changes. And so these people that sometimes we hold a grudge against, we simply need to love them and forgive them and get a soft heart around them, and things will change. That is the way it works, and we have testimony of that all the time, and I have certainly experienced that in my life. So learning how to live in harmony. And then we talk about Mother Earth and the damage we hear we've done. And, you know, we don't hear the good stuff about the daffodils that we talked about today. You know, all that good stuff, we don't hear about that. You know, we hear about all the nasty stuff that we've been doing by, you know, getting rid of our forests, and the birds don't have anywhere to go, blah, blah, blah. There's bad stuff that goes on, and yet there's good stuff too. And the nice part of it is we're still up and walking, and we can still do some good stuff. So we can be open to doing the right thing for our planet. And we can forget about this not enough paradigm that sometimes we get caught in. Oh, I'm not rich enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have enough time, blah, 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 not enough, not enough. Get rid of that. Right here and right now, you are enough. There is something for you to do. There's no such thing as competition. There's enough for everybody. And the idea of honoring our diversity. We talk about that all the time, that how important it is to have an open arm for everything and everybody, not say, well, you're not the right, of the right mentality, you're not the right, what would you say, Celeste? Ideology, yeah, whatever it is, you don't fit that. You're not the right color. You don't have the right idea about your sexuality. Oh my gosh, we really intend to embrace everybody and be open to everyone. So we've been talking about this, planting seeds of thought and seeds of ideas and seeds of feelings, seeds of faith, seeds of words and seeds of action that will help us do this stuff, to go up a rung on this spiritual stuff, to have to move forward to a free, more glorious expression, a new humanity. That's what we're talking about this month. And when do you think would be a good idea to plant these seeds? Well, of course, you got to wait till you're retired. You can't do anything now. Of course, you got to wait till you get a little more money. You can't do it now. Of course, you got to wait till your relationships are healed because you're kind of a sick person. You got to do this, got to do that, wait till your kids are out of college, so forth and so on. No, of course, the right time to plant the seeds is right now. And, take this personal responsibility. Remember the oneness. Be conscious of what we're doing with Mother Earth. Be in harmony with people. Forget about that not enough paradigm. Just now is the time to take the time to make a difference and to go up on that spiral of consciousness. And the two biggest thieves of doing that, of course, are the past, getting caught up in the past and worrying about the future. When I try to meditate, or when I want to go to sleep at night, and my little monkey mind has got all kinds of stuff going on. It could be something that happened 20 years ago, or it could be some slight that I thought I got at the grocery store. Something going on, just crazy, crazy. And I found that if I just do something this simple, if I just say to myself, okay, for right now, I'm not going to think about anything in the past, and I'm not going to worry about the future. I'm just going to be right here. Boy, it cuts off a lot of stuff. Here you are, here in the bedroom, looking up at that fan. All of a sudden, you can drop away a lot of that garbage that you've been mulling around. For what? No use, no use, just to get you deeper, deeper in a hole. Just let the past go. Don't worry about the future, just for right now. You don't have to do it forever, but while you're meditating or while you're ready to go to sleep, that's a huge thing. Holmes says, we should erase the thoughts of yesterday that would rob us of today's happiness. And here's the affirmation he did around that. There is nothing arising out of the past that can disturb me. I loose all things that in the past have caused me anxiety. The Spirit knows no past and is not affected by belief in any. The past is swallowed up in the victory of a perfect present, which is filled with love and protection. The man had a way with words. This is the way we can look at things and stay in the here and now. And it's through forgiveness and conscious release that we release the past that kind of wants to grab us. Forgiveness and release. If you're having difficulties in your life, in any area of your life, that's the first thing to look. I think that's the first thing to look at. What's the grudge? Who are you blaming? When I got into Al-Anon years ago, I remember that was one of the first things I read. There's no room for blame in my life. His fault. It is his fault. I can blame him. It's all his fault. If he were sober, everything would be fine. What blame are we still hanging on to? What resentment? What are we, and for what? It does no good, ever, ever, ever. These are the things to let go of. Forgiveness. And if you're having trouble forgiving, simply say to your higher power, I'm willing to be willing to forgive. It's hard. And sometimes even before I've forgiven, I'm saying, I know I got this stony heart about this situation. I'm willing not to have it, but even as I have it, let that spirit that does all things, let that start healing without me. I mean, I'm just not ready. I'm willing to be ready. You know, work with yourself where you are, and God is not going to strike you down. Trust me. So it's with forgiveness and release. Once we can do this, it just frees up your life, frees up energy in your life to do good stuff. And Holmes also says this. He says, equally, we must not have fear of the future. I see that the future is bright with promise. It beckons me forward into a more complete realization of my own worth and my rightful place in the universe. All my tomorrows are happy and filled with harmonious occupation. I look to the future with great and pleasurable anticipation. I look to the future with great and pleasurable anticipation. That's the way, that's what we want to affirm. That's what Ernest Holmes is telling us to affirm. We can look to the future. It's good, and it's important for us to affirm that. I look to the future with great and pleasurable anticipation, knowing it expands my opportunity for radiant self-expression. Beautiful stuff. In the Bible, in Matthew, Jesus says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about tomorrow. He's saying live in the now. So the idea, of course, is to release anything hanging on to us, let it go, and live in the here and now. Enjoy each day. And as we are attempting to do what it is for us to do, as we get the energy and we pray about, what it is we want to do, we always just want to kind of tack on there, or whatever is higher or better, because maybe there's something higher or better in the mind of spirit that we are not quite in tune to just yet. The present is my point of power. So what are the things we can do right now? Maybe it's just to think about letting go of the past. Maybe it's to quit waiting for this wonderful thing that's going to happen in the future. Maybe it's simply to be empowered in this moment to do what is for you to do. So what seeds of thought are you going to plant for the harvest? There's a story that I'm going to tell you about. They call it the daffodil principle. And there was this woman living in California, and she lived a couple hours drive from her daughter's house. And her daughter was kind of bugging her. She was calling her, saying, Mom, you got to drive up here. The daffodils are blooming. It is unbelievably gorgeous. It'll blow you away. Get up here. The mom she didn't like driving in the mountains. She didn't like leaving her house and going up there, even though she loved her daughter and the little grandchildren. So the third call, finally, she said, all right, I'll come up next Tuesday. So next Tuesday comes around. It's rainy, it's foggy, it's chilly, just the yuckiest day. She jumps in her car, just muttering all the way, I don't want to do this, but my daughter wants me, I'm doing my obligation, just not feeling good about it. And then driving on these scary roads. She's driving up these curves, up the mountain, can't see. Oh, I've been there. I haven't been there much. I don't want to be there. I do not like that. I can relate to what she's saying. She was scared. So she drives up there. Finally, 2 hours later, she gets to her daughter's house. She goes in the house. She gives her daughter a big hug. She gives the grandchildren a big hug. And she said, I ain't going nowhere. I'm just going to stay here. So daffodils be damned. I don't want to see anything. There's nothing I need to see. As soon as it clears, I'm going home. And the daughter said, oh, gee. She said, Mom, I was really hoping you would take me to go pick my car up. It's being repaired, and it's been repaired in the shop, and I got to go pick it up. Mother says, how far? And the daughter says, just a couple blocks. Mom said, oh, okay, all right, we'll do that. So they take the kids, put them in the car. Off they go to go get her car. And they're driving along, and the mother says, where are we going? We've gone over 2 blocks. This is not the way to the shop. And the daughter says, we're going to the garage the long way, by way of the daffodils. Now, this mom was just beside, and this is a true story, this mom was just beside herself. She was just like, oh, she's afraid. I've been there. I don't like those roads. And she just didn't want, there was nothing she would be willing to go see to be on those roads again, but there she was. And here's this daughter, she's always been a good kid, never misbehaved, just always this good kid, and here she has kidnapped her mother. And off they go to see these daffodils that the mother could care less about. And she really felt she was taking her life in her hands by being out on this horrible road. She was muttering the whole way. And they finally get to this little gravel road where they turn off, and the fog had lifted a little bit, but it was still a pretty crummy day. And there's a little church there, and there's a pine needle-covered path, nice evergreens around, and there's a little inconspicuous hand-lettered sign that says, Daffodil Garden. So they each took one of the kids by the hand, and off they go. It was a beautiful walk. There was a lot of mountain laurel, live oak, shrubs, bushes. But she was still cold and shivering and muttering about how she didn't want to be here. And then we turned a corner of the path, and I looked up and gasped. And these are her words. This is what she says. Before me lay the most glorious sight, unexpectedly and completely splendid. If you wanted to press a button at this point, Anthony, you could. Oh, it's up there, all right. When did it come up? All right, perfect. I had this in mind. I was going to buy some fresh daffodils and have them here. Wouldn't that have been beautiful? Well, I don't understand the fact that you can't always get fresh daffodils, so here we are. So anyway, she was just, it was just unbelievable. It looked as though someone had taken a great vat of gold and poured it down over the mountain peak and slopes, where it had run into every crevice and over every rise. Even in the mist-filled air, the mountainside was radiant, clothed in massive drifts and waterfalls of daffodils. The flowers were planted in majestic, swirling patterns, great ribbons and swaths of deep orange, white, lemon yellow, salmon, pink, saffron, and butter yellow. In the center of this incredible and dazzling display of gold, a great cascade of purple hyacinth flowed down like a waterfall of blossoms, framed in its own rock-lined basin, weaving through the brilliant daffodils. And as though that weren't enough, all of a sudden this flock of bluebirds is flitting over this whole scene. There's these bluebirds, color of sapphires with breasts of magenta red. Just, I mean, like, God wasn't happy with just the daffodils. And here's some bluebirds to add to it. It did not matter that the sun was not shining. The brilliance of the daffodils was like the glow of the brightest sunlit day. Words, wonderful as they are, simply cannot describe the incredible beauty of that flower-bedecked mountaintop. But who's done this? She asked. How and why and when? So they walked back, and they saw this little poster that said, "Answers to the questions I know you're asking." And the first answer was simple: 50,000 bulbs. The second answer was one at a time by one woman 2 hands, 2 feet, and a very little brain. The third answer was it began in 1958. So, of course, this is a metaphor, because remember what we're talking about. If I had my circle, which we couldn't find, but the circle, remember, is that top part is our thought seeds. That's our consciousness. The middle part is the law or the soil. That's where those thought seeds go. And then the bottom part is the outpicturing of whatever it is that we planted. And so that's what the metaphor is here. What she planted and what it manifested. And what we plant also manifests. And that's why we want to plant the good stuff. We want to plant the daffodil kind of stuff instead of, harboring these unforgiving thoughts, resentful thoughts, worry thoughts, fret thoughts. You know how this stuff can just, how important it is to keep our thoughts positive and constructive. So this woman changed things one bulb at a time. She created something of ineffable magnificence, beauty, and inspiration. And we can do the same thing with our thoughts. And I'm going to ask Joan to come up because one of my favorite poems happens to be about daffodils. And Joan will read that.
I was going to tell you, Joanne, if you don't like roads like that, you should never, ever visit New Zealand.
Oh,
Ever.
interesting.
It's the only kind of road they have. I wandered lonely as a cloud by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when I lie on my couch, when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon the inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils.
I just love that. Just that idea. He lays on the couch and all of a sudden he just has a flashback to where he went and how that heals his soul. So I am going to offer a spiritual mind treatment at this time. So I would invite you to take a deep breath. Just relax where you're at. Get comfortable. I say it in first person as though it's for me. Just know it is also for you. I know there is but one power, and it is a power of beauty and love and harmony. It's a power of connection. It's a power of all good. And that very power that created everything and everyone is the same power that experiences life in, through, and as its creation, in, through, and as me. I'm going to share a quote that always lifts my soul. On this Memorial Day, we embrace the truth that life is a precious gift, a gift that calls us to live fully, to love deeply, and to make a difference in the lives of others. As we remember those who have gone before us, let us remember that our own power to shape the world through acts of kindness, compassion, and understanding. And I also like to remember the lady that planted the 50,000 daffodil bulbs. And I remember that I start by planting my seed thoughts. Maybe I'm not going to make a big difference to the whole world today, yet I trust that as I plant positive and constructive thoughts, good will result from that. I will benefit, the world will benefit. Speak my word for harmony in my heart, in my backyard, in my city, in my state, in our country, into the whole world. And I'm grateful that this is how the law works. I plant my seed into that soil of law, and it is done unto me as I believe. And I release these words now to the beneficent conspiracy for perfect manifestation. So it is.